What is up, love doves? Coming at you from a moon day evening here in Mesoamerica. And full disclosure, everybody, I have been dealing with some creative burnout. This has been a very difficult period for me to try to continue to produce the podcast. I don't know exactly why. I think the winter season, as a sun worshiper and as a summer baby, the winter season is the harder season for me, but I really cannot complain because I am blessed to live in Great Bird City, and we have had some very beautiful, sunny, 70-degree days. So I've been out by the canals, swinging the kettlebell around, doing everything I can to keep my mental up. But sometimes it's just very difficult to find the drive to continue to create. And, I had a really good visit with some friends recently who are also creators, and they said that sometimes you just have to power through. You just have to do it. You just have to make it happen, even if you don't feel like it. So that's what I'm doing. And I'm going to put this episode out. This is going to be, it's a bit like schizotypal, like offerings, expressions of a battered spirit who is just trying to make sense of everything and continue just digging for inspiration, where sometimes it feels like it's hard to find inspiration. But there is always inspiration. There's always so much beauty in life. Life is like a knot. It's a big mess of beauty and tragedy all wound up together. And that's why the yin-yang symbol is so powerful, because it encapsulates that idea that, within every hellscape is that seed of light. And within the light is the seed of the hellscape, and it all is chasing each other. And it's the snake eating its own tail, and we're just doing the very best we can. It's been difficult for me to feel super festive this holiday season. Obviously, it's always good to see family. It's always good to spend time. But it's been difficult for me the cognitive dissonance of doing this holiday season inside of a society that is arming and funding and running diplomatic cover for a genocide has been difficult for my mental. But, I'm only one person. We have to accept the things we cannot change. We can do what we can to speak our truth and to persuade and to sway public opinion. But we do have to accept the things we cannot change. That's just a fact. Otherwise, we'll drive ourselves crazy. But, I know in my heart, and I was raised to know, that genocide is always wrong. So I thought we were better than this as a humanity, as whatever we call the West. Someone once asked Gandhi what he thought about Western civilization, and he said, I think it would be a really good idea. And we're seeing that in real time as the genocide continues. And it's heartbreaking to see, and it's hard to put out of my mind because I refuse to look away from it. I think the very least I can do as someone who benefits from the spoils of the empire, even though I'm I live in South Phoenix in the industrial district in a 1-bedroom apartment over here, and I spend 2/3 of my income on rent, you know what I mean? But still, I still benefit from the spoils. The very least I can do is bear witness to what is going on. So that's kind of what's been going on in my mental, and so the following is the best I can do right now. So it's just some different segments addressing some different ideas that are important to me, some things that have been on my mind, and I hope that it's at the very least nourishing to listen to, in that I am a fellow human being who's expressing my honest and heartfelt expressions. And it is very beautiful to be human. It's very beautiful to get to know other humans, to interact with other humans. We are so very complicated and so very flawed, but so very beautiful at the same time. Everyone is so creative and innovative. I love the diversity of thought, the diversity of expression, and just the diversity of being. And I love this great city, this great bird city. Been meeting some really beautiful new people, joining some beautiful new communities, getting out there, fucking wrestling with my fucking social anxiety, which drives me insane. It's so frustrating sometimes because like the weird thing about social anxiety is like you can be like completely stoked to hang out, but you're like just like a nervous wreck. And it's like, I'm sorry, I'm a nervous wreck. I have social anxiety. I'm really stoked to hang out. I think people with social anxiety maybe understand. But you have to battle through that shit because otherwise you just become a solitary monk. And, I've been doing my solitary monk thing. I've been doing a lot of meditation. But you can't just, or at least some people can. But I'm not ready to just live my life as a solitary monk. I like people too much, and I want to be part of the community, and I want to go out and do things and meet people. But yeah, it's nerve-wracking. So you just have to battle through and do the very best you can. So that's what this is, everybody. Much love. I really appreciate all the support, all the love. Just following this journey of this podcast. I've been going since 2018. Every season is a new chapter. Everything is always changing. The only constant is change. Change is inevitable. And I know that the winter is kind of like it's the down season for me. And so I feel like I'm giving myself some credit. I'm doing actually pretty well this winter. I haven't completely just descended into the abyss, but definitely struggling with, the inspiration and the motivation gets hard sometimes. So, all right, everyone, that's it. And that's that. This is what I was able to produce. And I love and appreciate all of you. Take care. Peace. What is up, love doves? Little raven coming at you from a Sunday night. My ring light died on me today, right as I started recording. It just died for no reason. I don't know why. So I got my salt lamp. My salt lamp is lighting my space. And I'm in a pretty good space. I went to Tres Leches this morning and got some sandías, got some pan dulces. Fucking love those pan dulces from Tres Leches. And recording some thoughts. So the first thought I'm going to record is a little something called the United States Bill of Rights. So the United States has a Bill of Rights, and I was raised as an American, and we have this Bill of Rights, and everyone's obsessed with contracts in this country. Everything's contractual. So this appears to me like a contract, and it looks like a contract of what my rights are as an American citizen. And amendment number 1, numero uno, it says, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion. Meaning I can be a sun worshiper in this great country. Or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. So I can stare at the sun, even though people say it's bad for my eyes, and it probably maybe is. And I try not to stare at it extensively. And I try to stare at it when it's setting or when it's rising. Sometimes I will take a little glimpse when it's high up there, but I try not to do that too much because I'm pretty sure that's maybe not great for the old eyes. But Congress shall make no law respecting anything about religion. You get to do religion as you see fit according to this contract, the U.S. Bill of Rights, Amendment number 1. Now it continues, the amendment continues. Or abridging the freedom of speech. So just to run that back, Congress shall make no law abridging the freedom of speech, or of the press, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. So as an American, according to this contract, the U.S. Bill of Rights, I have the right to petition the government for a redress of grievances. So I just think that's powerful and beautiful. Amendment number 4, it says the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrants shall issue but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. So the people actually do have a right to privacy. And we have the right to free speech, freedom of the press. We have the right to peaceably assemble and petition the government for a redress of grievances. So I don't want to hear this bullshit about podcasts not being allowed to petition the government for a redress of grievances. And I draw a hard line at a live stream genocide. Draw a hard line on that shit. So I'm petitioning the government for the redress of my grievance that we should stop arming the live stream genocide. We have to stop. Stop it. I'm now going to read a poem by Michael Rosen. Michael Rosen was born in North London in 1946. His parents were teachers. And he currently presents Radio 4's long-running Word of Mouth. He wrote a poem called Don't Mention the Children. Don't mention the children. Don't name the dead children. The people must not know the names of the dead children. The names of the children must be hidden. The children must be nameless. The children must leave this world having no names. No one must know the names of the dead children. No one must say the names of the dead children. No one must even think that the children have names. People must understand that it would be dangerous to know the names of the children. The people must be protected from knowing the names of the children. The names of the children could spread like wildfire. The people would not be safe if they knew the names of the children. Don't name the dead children. Don't remember the dead children. Don't think of the dead children. Don't say dead children. So now I'm gonna freelance a little bit. I did make some notes, but I'm gonna freelance a little bit. I've been thinking a lot about selfishness and how I feel that selfishness is truly the knot that is binding the flourishing of humanity. And it sounds cliche to say this, but I actually believe this, that world peace, or even if you want to start a little bit smaller than that and go like peace of a community, peace of a family, peace in a city, peacefulness. Peacefulness actually starts within our own heart. And I know that sounds cliche, but it is so true. So we have to find that peace within ourselves. And we exist inside this society that it propels selfishness. It propels selfishness and this striving all the time, striving for what do I want? Who am I? And look, we all have self-preservation instincts. I get that. And it's also totally understandable that we all want what we want. I want what I want. Everyone else wants what they want. But I do think that this extreme selfishness that is exhibited on the individual level, and then it expands out from there, and it gives rise to a lot of problems. So I'm not even condemning being selfish, because I think that would be silly. Like, I want what I want. However, I have to understand and truly internalize that others want what they want too. And sometimes other people are gonna want stuff that I'm not gonna want. And then how am I gonna engage with that? So that's where you get into like the powers of persuasion. You can persuade. If you really, really want something, you can persuade. But you can't just go and fucking take it no matter what. I mean, I don't think so. I've been thinking a lot about creativity as it pertains to capitalism. And I feel like the logic of capitalism is brutalizing to creativity. Creativity is non-linear, it's fluid, It can be disorganized and chaotic, and sometimes it can be downright hectic. Creativity cannot be boxed into the predictable, consistent, and insistent and persistent bottom line pursuit of endless profits. Creativity needs space to breathe. It needs space to flow. Creativity moves like a river. Water doesn't like to be in 90-degree angles. Water likes to bend and flow. It's the same with creativity. Creativity needs space to breathe, space to think, to feel, and that means it requires the space to sometimes feel downright depressed and in the dumps and demoralized. Then the trick there is, how do you not just wallow when you do find yourself in the dumps and depressed and demoralized? How do you just not wallow in that? Because then you become like stagnant water, and that's no good. But to just pretend like you're never gonna feel depressed and demoralized, I think is silly. I think that's the toxic positivity vibe. So sometimes you're gonna feel depressed and demoralized, and then it's like it requires a lot of work and effort, honestly. I don't think there's any, my experience is there's no easy answers to clawing your way out of that when you feel that. It requires work and effort. For me, like just exercise is incredibly helpful. Just getting my blood flowing, getting a sweat, getting on that stair climber, putting it to level 23, burning 300 calories, fucking running up the pyramid. It helps, even just temporarily. But then you get little, say you're in a real depressive rut, you get those endorphins, it gives you a little glimpse of like some optimism, then you can start threading these glimpses of optimism together. Also, just going out and helping others, doing something for someone else, even like a loved one, a partner, a family member, someone in your community, just going out and offering a helping hand to people, I think is really, really helpful for clawing your way out of the depression, because then it's like, at least, well, I might feel like everything is meaningless and has no purpose, but at least I'm able to help this other person. And it feels good to help people. That's something beautiful about humanity, is it feels good when we help other people. That's a good sign. That means that there's something nice inside of us, which there is. Don't believe the hype that we're all just like tooth and claw, law of the jungle. It's not like that. We have tooth and claw, law of the jungle. I have it in me, I'm not gonna lie. You know, I like a good scrap from time to time, but it feels good to help other people. The human spirit is not a wrench you can use to torque a screw to produce a creative thing. It's more like water. It flows and it bends, it spills, it thrills, it drowns, it buoys, it bubbles, it sits, and sometimes it even does a vortex. Vortex, vortex, vortex. The problem is not immigrants coming here to seek a better life. The problem is predatory capitalism. So my niece has me watching this animated series on Netflix called Arcane, and I'm really enjoying this series. I like how it's a philosophical examination of the dynamic and dichotomy between progress and what we call progress, and then those left behind in pursuit of progress. I think that's very apropos to our current world and very thought-provoking. It highlights the fine line sometimes between enforcers and outlaws, which is a very real fine line. And it points to what progress actually is and what is the cost of progress. And I'm not saying that progress is not good, but what is actually progress? What are we progressing towards? Are we progressing towards a techno-feudal hellscape? Or are we progressing towards a diverse, multicultural society where you have all sorts of different vibes coexisting together and actually complementing one another? So again, nature loves diversity and culture loves diversity. And when we open our hearts and our minds to the ways and means and methods of diverse cultures, I think it makes all of us stronger. Hey friends, I'm going to share this segment I recorded. I'm just giving you a heads up. I tried to listen with binaural beats in the background. I thought it would sound cool, but it just made it kind of sound underwatery. So just excuse that, but I'm still going to share it because it was very heartfelt. Just some thoughts I had about the difference between IRL, real life, versus digital life. So here it goes. What is up, love doves? Coming at you on a Friday night, paddle day morning. It's a Friday night, paddle day morning, and I've been doing some deep dive meditations. In many ways, I feel we are born alone and we die alone. In many ways, even though we are. Obviously, we do live in a society. But in many ways, we are born alone and we die alone. And this has been a recurring theme through my life, where my times where I've been at my peak loneliness have also been my times of peak realization, I should say. I don't want to say because you start talking about enlightenment and it's like, it sounds like you're being high and mighty, you know what I mean? No one's trying to be high and mighty over here, but just thinking about shit and realizing some stuff. So let's cut right to the chase. This technology that we are inundated by is affecting us. And I'm not saying it's good. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying that it is affecting us. We are being affected deeply by the technology that we are inundated by all the time. In the West, as Americans over here with our phones, everyone's got the phones. The phones are smart. The phones have screens. The phones have information. The phones have lights and colors. The phones have all kinds of stuff. And it is very overwhelming. And I feel that we are all being deeply affected by it. That's all I'm saying. And I say that to say this. Real life does not operate like digital life does. Real life is one thing, and digital life is something completely different. Completely different. So in real life, stuff is very messy. And here's a word that we don't sit with enough: awkward. Real life is awkward. I think this is some medicines for some people right now. It is okay to be awkward. It's not the end of the fucking world. In digital life, it is the end of the fucking world to be awkward. If you post something awkward, and it's like, oh, it's the end of the fucking world. Because now I've posted this presentation of myself, and now my presentation of myself is awkward, and God forbid. But in real life, shit just gets awkward sometimes, and it is okay. I invite everyone to consider the possibility that it's actually okay to be awkward sometimes, because we are just trying to figure this all out. We are not. Here's a little something. Human beings are not as evolved as we like to think that we are. This is my humble opinion. I feel that there is a much greater reality happening. Much, much greater reality out there. I feel it in my chakra systems when I go really deep into my meditation. I get little glimpses of it, and I'm like, there is a much, much greater reality out there than the 3D plus time and accumulating money so we can survive reality that we live in. the 3D plus time accumulating money so we can survive reality is fucking hectic. It's very hectic. And it's quite frankly stressful. And there's so many ins and outs and what have yous and like, you know, so in real life, things are not going to be like perfectly curated all the time. They're not going to be like this exquisite exposition. They're not going to be like this beautiful portrait. It's just, that's not IRL. IRL is different and it's fine. And I think that this is something that is important for all of us to consider and internalize, because I think that the conflation that is happening with real life and digital life is fucking with all of our mentals, and it's making us feel like we have to be like curated like digital all the time in IRL time, and it just is, that's not how it works. It's just not how it works. In real life, there's going to be awkward silences, there's going to be awkward moments, there's going to be, you know, and sometimes things flow beautifully in real life. Like, don't get me wrong over here, you know. And of course, there's things like live performances and like plays and stuff like that. Like, but these are curated things. Like live performances and plays are like curated things. Like these have been prepared for and rehearsed for, you know. IRL is like just happening in real time. And I feel like there's this disconnect that we feel like we have to be like on like Instagram mode all the time when we're in real life. And it's just not the way it is. So that's just a thought that I had that I think is important to consider.
On June 18th, 1918, in Canton, Ohio, Debs, as he had often done in the past, decried the unholy alliance between capitalism and war, the use of the working class by the capitalists as cannon fodder in World War I, and the Wilson administration's persecution of anti-war activists, unionists, anarchists, socialists, and communists. Wilson, who had a deep animus toward Debs, had him arrested under the Sedition Act, which made it a crime to willfully utter, print, write, or publish any disloyal, profane, scurrilous, or abusive language about the form of the government of the United States, or to willfully urge, incite, or advocate any curtailment of the production of anything necessary or essential to the prosecution of a U.S. war. Debs did not contest the charges. At his trial, he declared, "Washington, Paine, Adams, these were the rebels of their day. At first they were opposed by the people and denounced by the press. And if the revolution had failed, the Revolutionary Fathers would have been executed as felons. But it did not fail. Revolutions have a habit of succeeding when the time comes for them." On September 18, 1918, minutes before he was sentenced to a 10-year prison term and stripped of his citizenship, the 62-year-old Debs rose and told the court, "Your Honor, years ago I recognized my kinship with all living beings, and I made up my mind that I was not one bit better than the meanest on earth. I said then, and I say now, that while there is a lower class, I am in it, and while there is a criminal element, I am of it, and while there is a soul in prison, I am not free." I listened to all that was said in this court in support and justification of this prosecution, but my mind remains unchanged. I look upon the espionage law as a despotic enactment in flagrant conflict with democratic principles and with the spirit of free institutions. Your Honor, I have stated in this court that I am opposed to the social system in which we live, that I believe in a fundamental change, but if possible, by peaceable and orderly means. I am thinking this morning of the men in the mills and the factories, of the men in the mines and on the railroads. I am thinking of the women who for a paltry wage are compelled to work out their barren lives, of the little children who in this system are robbed of their childhood and in their tender years are seized in the remorseless grasp of mammon and forced into the industrial dungeons, there to feed the monster machines while they themselves are being starved and stunted, body and soul. I see them dwarfed and diseased, and their little lives broken and blasted, because in this high noon of Christian civilization, money is still so much more important than the flesh and blood of childhood. In very truth, gold is God today, and rules with pitiless sway in the affairs of men. In this country, the most favored beneath the bending skies, we have vast areas of the richest and most fertile soil, material resources in inexhaustible abundance, the most marvelous productive machinery on earth, and millions of eager workers ready to apply their labor to that machinery to produce in abundance for every man, woman, and child. And if there are still vast numbers of our people who are victims of poverty and whose lives are an unceasing struggle all the way from youth to old age, until at last death comes to their rescue and lulls these hapless victims to dreamless sleep, it is not the fault of the Almighty. It cannot be charged to nature, but it is due entirely to the outgrown social system in which we live that ought to be abolished, not only in the interest of the toiling masses, but in the higher interest of all humanity. I believe, Your Honor, in common with all socialists, that this nation ought to own and control its own industries. I believe, as all socialists do, that all things that are jointly needed and used ought to be jointly owned, that industry, the basis of our social life, instead of being the private property of a few and operated for their enrichment, ought to be the common property of all, democratically administered in the interest of all. I am opposing a social order in which it is possible for one man who does absolutely nothing that is useful to amass a fortune of hundreds of millions of dollars, while millions of men and women who work all the days of their lives secure barely enough for a wretched existence. This order of things cannot always endure. I have registered my protest against it. I recognize the feebleness of my effort, but fortunately, I am not alone. There are multiplied thousands of others who, like myself, have come to realize that before we may truly enjoy the blessings of civilized life, we must reorganize society upon a mutual and cooperative basis.
Sometimes she gotta put herself in check. She don't take no disrespect. You leaving got no effect, cause she ain't living check to check. Her ass getting fatter now. She in the gym eating better now. She ain't tryna settle down when you ain't got your shit together.
I'ma take a bougie ass to Rodeo and then let her pick up whatever she want. CC Gucci Hippo, take her whatever she want. She pissed me off somehow, she still get whatever she want. Talking about her nails, I'm feeling her ass at home. Hit it in the shower, made her tell me what she want. Like I'm singing Maze, I made her tell me what she want. She on a power trip again. I know pussy power got me buying shit again. Friends ain't jacking me, you must be lying to your friends. They know I'm a beast, I wake the giants up again. Shining once again. Ran it up, I told her mama slide in my DMs. Now I'm right back in, locked in. Shawty got that dress on, so the block is hot again. Think so when I hit it, sound like I can ad-lib. Bow, 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 bow. Gotta ask again. Then she got it tripping off another yet again. Got a nigga feeling like a sucker yet again. Close on my emotions, then I rush and let her in. Hurry up and let her in. I'ma take a bougie ass to Rodeo and then let her pick up whatever she want. CC Gucci Hippo, take her whatever she want. She pissed me off somehow, she still get whatever she want. Talking about her nails, I'm feeling her ass at home. Hit it in the shower, made her tell me what she want. Like I'm singing Maze, I made her tell me what she want.